with Reno Solar today. Super exciting. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. But we're going to be diving into solar energy. So, Ryan, if solar panels could talk, what do you think they'd say about living in Reno?
Oh, first of all, let me say it has been a while, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast today.
Oh,
Appreciate
yeah.
being
Before
here.
we dive in, Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself and how do we know each other?
Well, a little bit about myself. So I'm born and raised here in Northern Nevada. This is my hometown. I grew up here. I love this community and I love this area. Obviously, I haven't gone very far. I've just stayed here my whole life. Um, and then as far as us knowing each other, um, well, we have a little bit of a storied history together working over at the Gigafactory at Panasonic in various leadership roles there. I had the pleasure of working with Alphen on numerous occasions on different projects, and she was always an absolute pleasure to work with in the past. So I'm happy to be here today.
Are we lagging?
Possibly.
Oh. Well, I'm so excited to have you, Ryan. Ryan's absolutely amazing. He's very smart, very attentive. I know there were times like where I can be like hard headed, but you were very persistent with teaching me. Definitely loved your coaching. Super knowledgeable, very great communicator. You always knew how to break it down for me, to where I understood and really dive into like root cause and like finding solutions. So, definitely enjoyed working with you, and I'm glad we get to connect now. So, very
Yeah,
exciting.
absolutely.
All right. Oh, and then, okay, so before we dive in, we have a special guest. I'll go ahead and put him on. Give me 1 second. Hi, Benji.
Hi, Alvin. How are you?
Good. So,
Sorry, I'm in
Benji,
my car
Benji's
right now. I'm parked over.
no worries. He's a realtor here with I work with Benji, and Benji wants to kind of also dive in and ask Ryan like maybe 2-3 questions about solar.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Awesome.
do it.
What was your name again?
Ryan.
Ryan. Nice to meet you, Ryan. So I guess one of the first questions I had was kind of how the cost goes. I've had a couple of people ask me about solar panels, and it's kind of a tough question because I'm not too familiar with it. But I guess one of the first questions I have is, how does it start with financing them? And is it like every other thing where you put a down payment? Is there a minimum that you have to put in order to get them, or how does that work?
No, and that's a great question. I was to say because when it comes to ownership and solar panels for the typical homeowner, we have a variety of different programs available to meet whatever the need is of the customer and or homeowner. Um, some homeowners just want to own the systems outright, meaning that they're just going to pay for the system in full, depending on their availability to do so. But let's just say a homeowner wants to own a solar system, but they're not in a position to pay for the whole thing. We have different programs and products available for them that require zero out of pocket and zero upfront cost. So that way they're able to start enjoying the benefits of solar as soon as possible without any out of pocket expense. And for certain homeowners, we also have other programs available too as well, where they essentially are renting the solar equipment and don't actually own it, but they still get all the benefits of having solar, like the fixed monthly payment, all that kind of stuff. But don't have to worry about any of the other things related to solar when it comes to the tax credits, etc.
Hmm. So also another question, would you be able to finance it with your mortgage, or is that totally separate?
So it kind of depends on what you say by financing it with your mortgage. So if I had a homeowner that wants to utilize a home equity line of credit and or a HE loan to pay for the solar system, they absolutely can. But that would be just a direct reflection of a financed amount that they're pulling directly against the home itself. But the advantage to doing that is that they have direct ownership of the system. It's already paid off in full, and they're only paying the equity and the amount back towards the house against whatever it is that they borrowed. At the end of the day, they have an option or a choice to either finance it through us, or they can use it against and pull it against their own home, finance it themselves, whatever is the most beneficial for them. And that's what we do when we go and do our initial site visit with them, is to have a conversation around that and to discover what is the best choice for the homeowner.
And how does it go with repairs and warranties and any mess ups that could happen with just whether it's weather and any faulty things? How does it go with repairs and warranties?
Uh, when it comes to repairs, honestly, these are all great questions, because these are a lot of the same questions that homeowners themselves ask me. So your questioning is on point. I'll give you that. No, when it comes to repairs or anything like that, the systems themselves, and this will vary to a degree from company to company, but I can only speak for Reno Solar. But with us, everything is warranted for 25 years. So the panels, the inverters, all workmanship, the roof warranty, all that is covered for 25 years. So if anything happens within that time frame, let's say a piece of the system malfunctions, or there some sort of issue is occurring with the system, we're just going to come out and fix it at no cost to the homeowner. If something were to occur to the system that's outside of the scope of that, like let's say a tree falls on their house and damages the panel, that would be a homeowner's insurance claim rather than a claim for coverage for the system, since the system itself didn't malfunction.
Right. Well, that's good. That's kind of it. That's kind of all the questions I had for solar panels. Just kind of the questions I've been asked frequently when it comes to them, and that's good. That's very informative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tell homeowners to make sure that they do their due diligence and look into the warranties and the coverages with any solar company that they sit down with, because they will vary in length and coverage based on who they are sitting down with in front of them. So it's very important that they really look at the fine details of that warranty, because sometimes they're just product only, sometimes it's performance, sometimes it's both. So yeah, I was going to say all that stuff is really important, that they make sure that they understand fully what it is that they got in front of them.
Okay, it's good. It's good. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much, Benji.
Thanks for hopping on, Benji.
Of course, sounds good. All right, bye.
Bye. All right. Yeah, no, I love those questions regarding solar maintenance. Those are questions I have as well, as far as the maintenance portion. So since we're in the topic, are there any seasonal considerations for maintenance for solar? Since we have snow, dust.
For the most part, solar itself is pretty self-sustaining. There really is no real maintenance that's required for it, because there's no moving parts. And if everything is done correctly, when the initial site appointment has been conducted with the solar representative, they've taken into account historical weather data over the last 70 years or so, the pitch and slope of the roof, any shading that may be occurring from trees or anything obstructing the sunlight in the area. And so all that stuff's factored in. And as far as maintenance concerns, like cleaning snow off or anything like that, we definitely, the last thing we want is homeowners having to worry about getting on the roof and trying to get snow off and, falling down and hurting themselves. So that is something that is not required usually by noon or so. Most of the snow is going to slide off to the edge of the panel to the bottom of the roof anyways. And you'll actually notice that homes with solar, the snow comes off of the roof faster than it does with homes that don't have solar, because essentially the solar is a glass top, so it's like a slide. So the snow just slides right off of there.
Nice. So can you share an easy DIY tip for panel care for anyone, to do besides go on the roof and take care?
Yeah, absolutely. Some areas around northern Nevada are definitely more dust prone than others, especially the Fernley, Fallon, Urington areas, stuff like that. So if they notice that there's an accumulation of dust building up or dirt on the panels, they can easily clean them off with just simple water. You can spray them off with the hose. The only thing I would say is just make sure that you do clean them off in the early morning or late evening once the sun has gone down, because obviously you don't want to put cold water on hot glass because that could cause some serious issues. And if they feel like going a step above beyond that, you can get a telescopic brush and some panel cleaning solution that's specifically for panels that you can purchase on Amazon for less than $50.
Nice, great tips. Okay, so now for sellers. So if someone wants to sell their home, what happens to the solar panels? Do they transfer the new owner?
So, yeah, when it comes to the sale, the solar system itself is all the warranties and everything are fully transferable over to whoever the new homeowner is. And depending upon the ownership status of the solar system will dictate the next steps moving forward. So if the homeowner who's selling the house owns the system outright already, then they actually have the choice. They can take the solar system with them to their new residence if they wanted to, or which 99.9% of people do, they just leave it on the residence because it becomes a equitable selling point for the home, is basically saying you move into this house, you have no power bill. So it's a huge selling point, especially for homeowners that are moving into the area from California and things like that, that are already acquainted with solar. They're used to it. They know how it works, and they enjoy having it on their home. But if the solar system is financed, in order for the transfer to take place, the remaining balance of the system costs would have to either be paid off first, or the new homeowner would have to take over the initial existing monthly payments.
Agreed. Okay. And that's what I've been seeing lately as far as like with solar when we're selling or buying. So Ryan, could you share a success story of a home sale with solar panels that went very smoothly for you?
Well, I guess I probably would think about a customer that I had back, I don't know, probably about 6 or 7 months ago. They had put solar and purchased it and put it on their home. They were very happy with it. Due to some life circumstances, they ended up needing to relocate for a job to basically on the other side of the country to New York City. And so what he did, because he owned the system outright, is he actually had us come back, add some additional panels to the home, and then he rented the house out and became the utility provider for the home as well as the landlord. So he charges the rate that he would like to charge to the renters for their electricity. And so he's getting the added benefit of basically setting the price for electricity for the home, while simultaneously also having the renters pay for the mortgage at the same time as well. So
Win-win.
yeah, exactly.
All right. So now let's talk about the fun part. Rebates and credits. Are there still federal tax credits for solar? How much can a homeowner actually save?
So first off, I'll just preface this with saying I'm not a CPA or a tax consultant, but in the years of me doing this, there's the one that's most common that most people are aware of is the federal ITC solar tax credit, which at its current state is 30% of whatever the total cost is. So that total amount will vary based on the total expense of the solar system, which that cost is determined by how much power you're using in the home. So the cost of solar will vary from homeowner to homeowner, as the size of the house has nothing to do with the size of the solar system. It's all going to depend on how much power you're actually consuming. So we know how much to generate. With that being said, that tax credit is part of the Inflation Reduction Act that was signed into law by the Biden administration about a year or so ago. So depending on what the new administration does, this tax credit may or may not be available to future homeowners that are trying to make the transition to solar. There is also another credit that's available to homeowners that are running businesses out of their property, where in instance for like Reno Solar, for example, we use all American-made equipment. And so any business entity that installs solar with all American-made equipment is also entitled to an additional 10%. So that is another thing as well. And there's also some other credits that are available to homeowners based on their tax bracket where they land at the end of the year, which I save all that conversation for our tax pro that we keep on staff to go over all that with them. So at the end of the day, the short version of it is it makes it more affordable for homeowners to make the switch and the transition than it ever has been, especially here at Reno Solar, because of all the tax credits and programs that we have available to homeowners. But at the end of the day, most homeowners on average in Northern Nevada typically are saving anywhere from $80,000 to $150,000 over the course of 25 years by transitioning to solar energy.
So long-term gain.
Long-term and short-term, absolutely.
Okay. 80 to 100. And I'm taking notes because I'm learning as we go.
Yeah, no worries.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So you mentioned about some credits, right? So is there any local Reno or Nevada specific incentives that we should know about?
No, unfortunately at this time, there is no state or local incentives. The only things available are federal. You would think with the amount of sun that we get here that we would have something statewide, but unfortunately there's nothing through the utility company and or local governments.
Oh, okay. So Ryan, quick question. You gave me a range of 25 years. I'm not really good at math. How much savings do you think it would be for a year?
It would really depend, but roughly speaking, initially it would start out on the smaller end, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 the first year, and then that would steadily increase as time went on because if you take into account the average rate of inflation, about 4%, that savings starts to compound over year after year because NV Energy raises rates every quarter here in Nevada. So it's an inflation rate of about 4 to 5% or so. They just raised everyone's rates October 1st. Everybody's rates went up 4%. So, and it's just going to keep going that way. So.
No, totally agree. So when it comes to misconceptions, are there any common misconceptions about solar and taxes?
I guess I'll tackle the easy one first with the tax credits. So it is a credit. It is not a rebate. And so that's a huge misconception, right? And there's, so the government's not just going to write you a check for whatever that amount is. It comes back as part of your tax return, and all that is determined based off of your tax liability, filing status, and taxes paid throughout the year. That tax credit is good for 5 years or 5 tax seasons. So you have 5 tax seasons to recoup all the tax credits that are available to you as a homeowner. Common misconceptions are that because solar won't generate enough power in the wintertime, I'm still going to get a power bill. It's actually untrue because we take into account when building the system that there are going to be those months like December, January, where the weather's really poor and there's not very much production. So that way, during the good months, like in the spring and fall, when you're not really running your air conditioner or furnace, you're building a bunch of credits with NV Energy to offset your bill 100% for the whole year. So that way you don't owe them anything. The only thing you're paying NV Energy, and this will lead into another misconception, is a monthly service charge of $18.50. So if you ever speak with a solar representative and they tell you you'll never have an electric bill ever again, that is incorrect. You'll still always have the basic service charge. And if you use more power than the system was designed for, you could potentially end up with a power bill still as well also.
Good to know. Thank you. Is there any more?
No, I was gonna say that's usually the big ones. And the other one is that if you go solar, that you can disconnect fully from the grid. So unfortunately, if you've ever been connected to NV Energy at any point, you can never fully disconnect from them. You can't go off grid completely. You can have batteries on site and you can program them to make it so you can be as standalone as possible, but you always will still be connected to the grid.
Good to know. Okay. All right. Tackle this popular myth. It's a solar work on cloudy days.
Yeah. So when it comes to solar, it's still going to work during cloudy days. Obviously, not as well because there's still UV rays or photons that are still making it down to the Earth's surface. That's why we can still see outside when it's cloudy outside and it's not completely dark. So the solar is still producing, just not at 100%. But like mentioned before, if the solar representative that you're working with has done their due diligence and taken the time to create a proposal, it should have all that accounted for so that those cloudy days won't have an impact on the overall goal of eliminating the electric portion of your bill.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So quick questions, just going to be quick 3 questions from the office. I kind of pulled it. So,
Sure.
we'll go quick here for you. Does solar work during power outages?
Yes and no. So if you have solar only, then no, it'll automatically shut off if a power outage is detected because you don't want to be sending electricity back to a line that could be downed because it could start a fire or injure somebody. However, if you do have battery storage on site, like a Tesla Powerwall, the solar will continue to keep working if there's a power outage.
Okay. All right. And then what's the lifespan of a solar panel?
Depending on the manufacturer, but typically speaking, 30 to 40 years before they need to get replaced.
Okay. Awesome. And can I add more panels later?
Yes and no. So it's really going to depend upon the company that you work with and the equipment that they use. Here at Reno Solar, we use microinverters, which allow each panel to be run independently. So it basically makes it so the system is like Legos. So you can just add pieces on however you need at any point in time. So if your future energy changes, like you get an electric vehicle or a hot tub or something, we can always add additional panels on. If you use what's called a string inverter, it becomes a lot more difficult to add additional panels because the inverter itself is only rated to handle so much before you actually have to upgrade the actual inverter itself on the side of the home. Typically, those are manufactured by companies like SolarEdge, which they're not terrible. They're just a different piece of equipment that we just choose not to use because of its limited functionality and dependability.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. So to just kind of wrap up our live, I want to thank you, Ryan, for your time and your expertise and hopping on live with me today. I definitely want to invite anybody watching this or will be watching this later to contact Ryan for any solar needs or if you have any questions. I actually have your digital card up here in the QR code. So anybody watching this, you guys can just scan that and click on that QR code. Ryan is also on Instagram. So if you guys have Instagram, right over here, Reno, right? Go ahead and follow him, give him a like, follow. And if you guys have any questions, just drop it on the comments below and we'll be sure to answer them.
Yeah,
all right, Ryan, do you have any other closing remarks?
Other than it's just been absolutely wonderful and thank you for having me on today. And if you ever want to stop by our office, we're at 240 South Rock Boulevard, right behind the airport. So, but yeah, thank you again.
Ryan, we're neighbors.
Are we?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to visit you.
All right, we'll go to Daddy's Tacos one of these days.
Oh my gosh, I was just there for a networking event. The owner's amazing.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. All right, Ryan. If you guys have any questions, hit him up, and we'll be sure to be